Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fed Flash Face-Off, the first ever show. It's an expanded show. This is something quite different from what I've done in the past. Before, you've seen me here on YouTube doing short 20, 25-minute videos. This is going to be an hour or more. It's going to be a lot of content. I am Gary Ryan. You know me as Fed League Flash. I know there's a lot of background noise, and that is we are here in what has been for many, many years in my life a second home. This is the Visions Veterans Memorial Arena in Binghamton, New York. Yes, don't let the fact that it's here in Binghamton distract from the fact that I try to do it in an unbiased manner. I love the game more than I love any one particular team. So anyway, here we are. So that's why we have some background noise. I did grow up in this area. I now live 70 miles away, but I try and get up here when I can. It's taking the game live. But while I'm watching this game here in front of me, I'm also watching 3 other games on all my devices, just like I do at home. Have everything right in front of me. So anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about this show. All right. This is going to be, like I said, it's probably an hour or more. It's going to be a whole bunch of segments that you've seen on Facebook. I'm just transferring it over to here on YouTube. We're going to still have many features that you're already used to seeing, like news and notes. We'll always make sure to have a news and notes segment for you. You'll see picks and previews here on YouTube. I'll do a YouTube clip, power rankings, perspectives, some opinions, interviews. Going to be doing a couple of interviews over the next couple of weeks that we'll be showing to you guys here for the show. And perhaps some things like FPHL history, some other surprises along the way. So I hope you enjoy this. Please make sure you hit like, subscribe. If you already haven't, I see 45% of my viewers aren't subscribed. Please do. And hit the notification bell so when a video comes out, you know that it's here and you can check it out. Share, tell a friend. Really appreciate that. Of course, I will still be on YouTube, on Facebook, excuse me. I'll still be posting the things that I do, news items as it comes down the board. We're just going to talk about it more in depth here on YouTube. So we're still going to have our weekend game recaps. You'll still see that, just like we've been doing. But then during every week on Thursday, we'll have this special show, the Fed Flash Face-Off. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you do share with friends. Let them know, hey, it's here. I strive to provide the most coverage as possible of the FPHL to you. All right. Well, as a band once said back in the 70s, come inside. The show's about to start. Guaranteed to blow your head apart. Stay tuned. So let's start off this edition of the Fed Flash Face-Off with power rankings. We'll take a look kind of back, see how we've gone up to this point with your favorite team. All right. Of course, I'm going to work backwards, 14, 13. Yeah, these are the magnets that I use for my game recaps. They're doing double duty. And I don't have a 13 or a 14 with the Blues, so we just combine a couple letters, or numbers, rather. All right, so we're going to go 14 on up. Now, I'll say that there's not a whole lot of change from last time that we did power rankings on WordPress to now. But nonetheless, we'll go through this, and we'll start off with number 14. And yes, it's still the Biloxi Breakers. Speaking of breaks, they can't catch one. 1-9 in their last 10. They've lost their last 4. And the biggest problem has been the defense. They've given up 180 goals so far. That is 24 more than anyone else. That's an average of 5.7 goals surrendered per game. Not going to win games doing that. So, unfortunately, Biloxi is stuck at the bottom. Number 13, same place as where they were last time. It's the Indiana Sentinels. So now they've had their struggles as of late after they had played a fair amount of time, literally playing 500 hockey. They've slipped a bit. They have lost their last 7. Not all of those losses are in regulation. There are a couple of overtime losses, but nonetheless, they're coming up on the short end, primarily on offense. The offense has struggled as of late. They are down to scoring just an average of 2.8 goals per game. They need a lot more. I'd say defensively, they're decent. Not great, but decent. All right. Number 12, Baton Rouge Zydeco, and their problems have been consistent all year, just a lack of offense. This is a hardworking team. The locker room is very close. It's a very close-knit group of guys. The goaltending, even though they're giving up goals, has been good. Both Green and Coffey have been very good in net. The problem is you're only scoring 2.3 goals per game. And you have to, in this league, to at least win on a semi-regular basis, you need to be more like 3.3, 3.4 goals per game. So 2.3 isn't going to cut it. They need someone who's going to come in and be able to get them 20, 25 goals on the year. That's their biggest need, the thing they lack the most. All right. One of the teams that did switch positions down one spot from the week before, it's the Watertown Wolves. They were 10th 2 weeks ago when we did the last power rankings. Twofold problem. First of all, they're just the goaltending, where before it was pretty good. It struggled. The defense on the whole has struggled. They've given up the second most goals of any team in the league, 156. And defense was supposed to be the strength of this team. They're just surrendering way too many opportunities. And offensively, they need to pick it up a little bit. They've had some injuries, which has hampered them on offense, but they've also struggled quite a bit in that department. All right, so since Watertown is down 1, that means at number 10 we have up 1 Danbury Hat-Tricks. Now these two have been really close to each other all year in the standings until recently, especially with this past weekend with Danbury sweeping the Wolves. In their series, there's now a 7-point cushion between the two teams. And Danbury is now playing about 500 hockey. They're 5-5 in their last 10. Their offensive production is still not great. But the big thing is Kyle Penton has really stepped up. And he has been phenomenal in goal. That's made a big, big difference. All right, so we are up to number 9. And that is where they were at last time, the Twin City Thunderbirds. I know I'm a little cockeyed here, but that's because I'm doing this sideways. All right, so Twin City, did they have the great awakening this past weekend with the Melanson incident? Possibly. We'll have to wait and see. As there's a lot of talent on this team, and it just doesn't seem like it's really come together. They're still struggling to get consistent offensive production. You have your big three. You have Zach White and Gus Ford and Roman Kramer. But then after that, it's kind of a hodgepodge. And just looking at them on paper, they should be producing a lot more than they are. They continue to struggle, especially with games on the road. They've won only 3 games on the road this year. That's been an Achilles heel. But they're they're kind of trudging along at 4-6 in their last 10. Also 4-6 in their last 10, and just jumping over the Thunderbirds in the standings this last weekend is the PD Ice Cats. This is where they were last week in the power rankings as well. They continue to be somewhat inconsistent, but there are good signs that the team is coming together. They have made a couple of moves, and all of a sudden, Houston Wilson, he's producing very well, complementing the Marcinkiewicz brothers. And so, yeah, the last 2 weeks, they have a win over Athens, a resounding win, and a resounding win against Binghamton. Of course, Binghamton game, first time Binghamton's been shut out at home in their existence. And PD did that. So these guys are capable of some really, really good games. We just need to see it on a more consistent level. Again, they're just 4-6 in their last 10. So, but perhaps the last couple of weeks have shown signs of them turning a corner and progressing. They are currently in the fourth and final playoff spot in the Continental Division. Number 7, they've been frozen here for, I think, the last 4 times we've done power rankings, and that's the Blue Ridge Bobcats, who have improved over the last 10. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10, playing much better. The addition of Dustin Jasso has been a godsend for them. Jasso, of course, started the year at PD and only had 1 goal his entire time there. Very unlike Dustin Jasso. He's thriving in Blue Ridge, and so is the rest of the team. The goaltending has gotten a lot better. We still haven't seen Greg Hussey play, but he's basically taken Hunter Verostik's spot, and Anthony Schrum continues to play well. So, they're holding their own. They're in that fourth and final spot in the Empire Division for final playoff spot. So we'll see what they can continue to do. All right, one of the few teams that did have a little bit of movement in the last 2 weeks, and that is the Topeka Scarecrows. They dropped down 1 spot. They were 5th 2 weeks ago. They're now 6th. They've lost 2 games over the last couple of weeks. Prime opportunities for them to potentially leapfrog over the Port Huron Prowlers, and they just couldn't do that. So it is what it is. The defense, the team defense, as I've mentioned before, is great. Fantastic. No worries about them on defense. A little bit of concern. The play of Daniil Brizgalov has slipped a little bit as of late. Maybe he's battling an injury. I don't know. But I'd like to kind of see him turn the corner and get back playing the way he was earlier on when I considered him a candidate for Rookie of the Year. And he still might get there. We'll have to see. Offensive production, again, needs to improve. They have the talent to do it. The style of play, though, with the bump and grind, that doesn't create a lot of offensive opportunities at times. So they need to get a little more creative in the offensive zone. I think they're fine. They're 3rd place in the Empire, so they're doing all right. Number 5, up 1 spot, switching places with the Topeka Scarecrows, is the Columbus River Dragons. They're cold, they're hot, they're cold. Now they're hot again. They've won their last 4 games, and pretty convincingly, too. The offense is greatly helped by the return of Ryan Hunter. That is a huge bonus for them. And the goaltending play has been much better as of late as well. Tyler Roy, for a while, struggled. He seems to be back on his game, and now you get Babin back from injury. So you got fantastic tandem there. Columbus in good shape in 3rd in the Continental. Number 4, it's the Port Huron Prowlers. They just got their 20th win this last weekend. Topeka's in the rearview mirror, but they're staying ahead of the game. They have just a tremendous defensive team, a defensive group that plays hard. They play physical. They don't give you a whole lot of chances. You're not going to go in there typically and put 6, 7, 8 goals up on them. That's just not going to happen. It has happened maybe twice this year. So they are very, very solid in second place in the Empire Division. Now, number 3, we have Athens. They did take a loss this 2 weeks ago to the PD Ice Cats, but then again, so did Binghamton. So they're playing well. This is the thing that just blows my mind. Athens has 10 players, 10, with at least 10 goals scored. So your quandary, if you're the opposition, is who do you stop? You try and put a body on Joe Mack. Oh, well, Garrett Milan will score, or Kason Gallant will score, or somebody else will step up and score. This team is a powerhouse, and Carter McPhail is back from the ECHL. So they are doing very, very well, nipping at the heels of the number 2 team. And now, before I put them up, razor thin edge right now between number 2 and number 1. So we'll put this up. The Monroe Moccasins are number 2, 17 wins in a row. And taking a quick look ahead at the schedule they have upcoming, I don't see where they lose. If they lose, they beat themselves pretty much. So the record is 22, held by the 2018-2019 Carolina Thunderbirds. The Moccasins could very well top that. They are just playing lights out. They lead the league in offense with 5.4 goals scored per game. They have a solid defense. Their goaltending, which had its struggles early in the year, has been resolved quite a while ago, and they are just trucking along. 2 points up on Athens in that dogfight for the top spot in the Continental Division. And like I said, the difference between number 2 and number 1 is razor thin at this point. I'm still putting Binghamton at the number 1 spot. They are the only team in the league to have reached the 30 win mark. But it is a little concerning having taken a shutout loss at home against the PD Ice Cats. PD showed the rest of the league how to play against the Black Bears, how you beat these guys. PD's game plan was perfect. And so that is cause for not alarm, but concern for Binghamton. Binghamton has been put on notice. You can't cruise through this league. You can't just expect to automatically win every time you step out on the ice. And so there we go. The only reasons why I haven't number 1, primarily that 30 win mark, and the fact that Binghamton still by far has the best team defense in the league, only surrendering 2.26 goals per game. That is insane. That is an insane stat for the Fed. Maybe somebody in the NHL can obtain that, but you don't hear of a defense being that good in the FPHL. But here you go with the Binghamton Black Bears. So, like I said, just the thinnest degree of separation between these two. 2 weeks from now, maybe Monroe's in the number 1 spot. We'll have to see how it all develops. So there's power rankings. Hope you enjoyed that. Let's go on to our next segment right here on the Fed Flash Face-Off. I hope you're enjoying it. So this, of course, is another segment that we're doing here for the Fed Flash Face-Off that is on my WordPress page. If you go, well, where is that? You simply go to Fed League Flash 9, the number 9, .wordpress.com, and I print a lot of different articles there, whether it be stars and standings or picks and previews or power rankings, I'll also put on there. Also, if there's anything unusual, sometimes I'll write an article there, whether it's a game recap, something to that effect. So the WordPress page is available if you want to check it out. Just recapping our top stars for the week. The number 1 star for this week is Alex Storjahan from the Columbus River Dragons. My top 5 stars all come from the Continental Division. Storjahan had 3 goals and 3 assists in 2 games this last weekend. And normally I don't pick 2 players from the same team on stars and standings, or on my top stars. But this week I did. Trevor Babin gets himself a shutout, saves 31, and several of those saves were high danger chances. So he had a phenomenal return from his injury. So yeah, he gets a shutout in the win, of course. Goals against, 0. Also making the list for stars this week, Garrett Milan. 1 game played, and he gets a hat trick and 2 assists. There are a couple of honorable mentions that are listed, I believe, for Athens as well. Definitely 1. Can't remember. I don't have the list right in front of me. But anyway, also making our list is Houston Wilson, who had a 5-point weekend with a goal and 4 assists. And then finally, we have another goaltender from the Monroe Moccasins, Ty Masternak. He has won his first 9 starts in a row. Great start to his Fed career, and saved 28 out of 29 this last week. So it's a goals against of 1 and a save percentage of .965. Of course, he gets the win as the Monroe Moccasins continue to roll. They now have 17 wins in a row, looking to see if they can get to that all-time record of 22. As we look at the standings, this is as close as I can get it, so we're going to kind of do this. All right, so these are the Continental Division standings. Now, a lot of people have asked me how things are determined for the playoffs this upcoming season. Well, primarily it goes by the points right up here, and maybe I should have gotten the pointer. All right, so yes, points, and then you also have winning percentage. That is a tiebreaker. In case 2 teams have the same amount of points, you would go to the winning percentage. The team with the better winning percentage would get the higher seed. Now, right now, 4 teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, make the playoffs. And in this case, in the Continental Division, for the playoff scenarios, it would be team number 1 and team number 4 facing off. So right now, it would be Monroe, MPD. And then the other matchup would be between the 2 and 3 seeds, which would be Athens and Columbus, if the playoffs were to start today. But we still have a long way to go. All right, so just running across the top here, just so you understand what these columns mean. If you haven't looked at the full standings like this on the Fed web page, this is a breakdown. You have the number of games that they have played. Of course, everybody plays 56 games, hoping we don't have any more weather delays and weather problems. All right, but you have that. You have regulation wins. In other words, you earn 3 points for a game that in 60 minutes is decided and you win. And you have losses, overtime losses. You get 1 point for that. And then over here we have overtime wins and shootout wins. That's what the OTW and SOW means. All right, these are both the same. They both give you 2 points. So you have 34 times 3 plus 2 points plus 4 points, and then you get to 78. The winning percentage is basically based on how many points you get compared to how many points you could get. In this case, with the Monroe Moccasins, 32 games times 3 points. That would be the maximum number of points that they could get. In other words, 96. They got 78 points. That's an 813, right? 813 save percentage. I'm trying to look at this backwards. All right, you have goals that they've scored and the goals that they've allowed, differential of that really doesn't come into play. Penalty minutes, total penalty minutes, and then the other two interesting numbers here are the record in the last 10 games. Of course, Monroe was 10-0, and they've won 17 in a row. So that's your streak. All right, so that breaks it down a little bit. Anyway, as we get back to these, this is very interesting in Continental Division because Monroe and Athens are very close to each other. 78 points and 76 points. Now, to determine how many points would be like a magic number to clinch a playoff berth, to automatically guarantee a playoff berth for Monroe, that number is 36 points. How do we get that? We look at the 5th place team. In this case, it's the Twin City Thunderbirds. The maximum number of points that they can get if they win every single game from here on out in regulation, it'd be 113 total points. Now, Monroe already has 78, so you subtract 138 or 113 from 78, you get 35, but you need that extra point to avoid the tiebreaker. So to clinch, it'd be 36. That is 12 regulation wins. Now, Monroe has 24 games left, so if they go 12-12 the rest of the way, they clinch themselves a playoff spot. Athens' magic number, of course, they're 2 points behind, so they would be 38. All right, they would have to win 13 of the remaining 24 games remaining. Columbus is kind of stuck in the middle here. You see there's a big gap between 2nd and 4th. Excuse me, second place are 19 points behind, but they're 18 points up on the PD Ice Cats. PD and Twin City are having quite the battle for that 4th and final playoff spot. As you see, there's only a difference of 1 point here, 39-38. So it makes it very, very interesting. Going to be very intriguing indeed to see how that plays out for the remainder of the year. You look at Baton Rouge and Biloxi, and they're not mathematically eliminated, not even close right now as far as making the playoffs. But hope is starting to fade. They haven't had very good years so far. Okay, and if we look at the Empire Division, we see the same thing with all your numbers going across. Again, points being the biggest determination of who gets what seed, and then the win percentage is your primary tiebreaker. Now, Binghamton, of course, is way ahead. You see 88 points to 58 points. That is a 10-win gap. 30 points, 3 points for each win. So there you go. Binghamton, they're pretty close to having a playoff spot locked up. And when I say pretty close, for the end of January, this is close. Binghamton's magic number to make the playoffs is 21 points because Danbury, down here, has 42 points. They have 22 games left. So the maximum number of points that they can get is 108. You got in the 108 minus 88 is 20 plus the 1 point. And there you go, 21 points. That's 7 regulation wins with 22 games remaining. The two big interesting races in the Empire Division is, first of all, you have the Port Huron Prowlers and the Topeka Scarecrows kind of fighting for that second place spot. Right now, Port Huron is only 5 points up on Topeka. And if you notice, Topeka has played 2 less games. So they have games in hand. Technically, if they won both of those games in regulation, they would be 1 point up on Port Huron. They would jump into second place. So that's a very interesting race there. Also, for the 4th and final playoff spot, you got Danbury only 3 points behind, and Watertown even though there's a bit of a gap, they're 10 points behind. That's not that far. That's 3 regulation wins plus another point. If Watertown gets hot and goes on a winning streak, they could climb up in the standings. So, but right now, Blue Ridge holds the advantage with that. And Blue Ridge has a game in hand on Danbury, so that helps them out tremendously. But they've been playing much better as of late. Again, Watertown 7 points behind Danbury, but still within striking distance. And then down at the bottom, we see Indiana. Even though this says 4 lost the last 4, it's really a 7-game losing streak. 2 of the losses that they've had over the last 7 have been in overtime. So they ended up getting an overtime point, 1 point, but nonetheless, they have ended up on the short end of the scoreboard for the last 7 games. They're 14 points behind Watertown. If they're going to make a move, now is the time. So there's a look at our stars and standings. Let's switch to something a little bit more, shall we say, controversial?
Oh, no.
Oh, no!
Okay, so let's talk about suspensions. The thing nobody really wants to think about, but we all talk about it after it happens. Okay, now I don't want to editorialize a lot into, do I think the suspension is right or wrong? I'm not going to do that. What I do want to do is focus on the why these suspensions were handed out. You can agree with it or not. I'm just sticking with why the Department of Player Safety doles out these suspensions, and everything else is kind of opinion, editorial. So again, we're going to hold off on that here, except for one. Okay, now as far as where can you find out information about why players were suspended, there's 2 ways. We are facing a bit of a frustration this year because in past years, once the suspensions were doled out and listed on the Fed website on the transactions page, you see so-and-so got this, so-and-so got that, there was usually an explanation that day. That is not happening this year. We are having to wait till midweek to get an explanation as far as why players were suspended, what rule this falls under, that kind of stuff. There's 2 main ways that you can find out why. Okay, and again, it's not going to be to the later part of the week, but once we get to that point, you can find out 2 sources. One, usually Dave Jackson, the director of player safety, appears on a segment with Eric Swanek, who does the official FPHL podcast called FPHL Beyond the Glass. There's a link right on the Fed website, which of course the Fed website is federalhockey.com. All right, so usually 8 p.m. on Wednesdays when the next episode, the weekly episode, airs, there's usually a discussion with Dave Jackson on the podcast as far as what went on, what his thinking was, why he handed out the suspensions that he did. But he's not always on. He's not on every week. He wasn't this last week. So usually by Thursday, you can go to the Fed website, scroll down and find the tab that says player safety. Click that on and it'll say later this week, week 16 suspensions, and it'll go into the write-ups as far as why players got the suspensions. Okay, so I'm going to stick with why they were suspended as I understand it. Okay, again, I'm going to keep my editorializing and my thoughts, my personal thoughts, to a bare minimum. So this is just kind of what it is. All right, so the first penalty or for suspension rather, 8 games to Ryan Glazer of the Indiana Sentinels. He was given 8 games for kicking at an opponent. Okay, you can't do that. I don't know if you realize it, but those blades, it's not a flat surface on the bottom. It's not, the blade isn't just and squared off. It's got sharp edges, as inside between the 2 edges it's a concave thing, so it's razor sharp. Okay, we had a player in England die 2 years ago from a skate related incident. Okay, and skates are extremely dangerous. Ryan Glazer, whether he intended to kick at Reggie Millette or not, I'm not going to debate that, but it's too dangerous of a move to make, whether intended or not, whether he was just trying to defend himself or it was deliberate. Again, I'm not going to question, but it's too dangerous of a move to do to another player. It just can't be allowed. And the fact that an injury resulted as a result of the kicks, Millette ended up getting sliced on the wrist, had to have stitches put in. That is why he got 8 games. Now, Reggie Millette got 2 games because he was an aggressor. He was trying to engage Ryan Glazer most of the night on Saturday night, and Glazer didn't want to have any part of it. So right towards the end of the game, the last minute of the game, Millette attacked Glazer. Glazer did not show any willingness to drop the gloves or fight. And because he was an aggressor, Reggie Millette got 2 games. All right, next penalty, Zachary Hausman from the Danbury Hat Tricks. He was given a game. He was seen as an aggressor with a fight against Quinn Chevers of the Watertown Wolves, given a game misconduct in the first period of Saturday's game. So that is why he got the 1 game. Caleb Melanson of the Twin City Thunderbirds. I think this is the one that most of us are familiar with, even if you just casually watch things around the league. This went out far and wide. He was given an aggressor for basically punching an unwilling opponent numerous times. That was Robin Erickson of the Blue Ridge Bobcats. Earlier, Erickson had a rough hit against the boards against Michael Mania. Michael Mania was injured, taken off the ice, did come back later in the game, but Melanson basically wanted to fight Erickson according to the code. Players have a code on the ice, and players will stick up for their teammates. If they feel a teammate has been treated unfairly, they'll make a point to say so with fisticuffs usually. All right, so Melanson, again, Erickson did not drop the gloves, even though he knew Melanson was gunning for him. And so Melanson got the 2 games for being the aggressor there. Heath Ford of the Baton Rouge Zydeco was given a game misconduct for a cross-check, waning 2 minutes of the game versus the Columbus River Dragons. And then the thing that really was the problem, not so much the cross-check, but the fact that he refused to leave the ice. Once a linesman or a referee engages a player and instructs them either go to the penalty box or go to the bench or go get off the ice, whatever, it is the player's responsibility to do so and follow those instructions. After everything with any kind of altercation has been cleared, the linesman had to wrestle Ford away and basically escort him out the door. So that is why he was given the suspension that he was given. All right. Now, the other suspension that came down was not listed on the transactions page. As a matter of fact, the only place that you could find the suspension listed was on the Baton Rouge Zydeco's page. All right. And that is Ben Johnson, who signed early last week, or middle of last week, and ended up playing Friday, and the league suspended him indefinitely. Why? Okay, because Ben Johnson was convicted of a rape back in 2013. Okay, in 2016, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. He did serve 13 months. He resumed his hockey career in 2018, played some games in the ECHL. In 2022, he played a couple of years in Slovakia, okay, and he came back. He then made some statements on social media, kind of, in essence, blaming the NHL for what happened, because he was an NHL draft pick. Back in 2012, he was selected in the 3rd round. I don't know. I don't know if that was the thinking of everyone else since then, as far as when he's tried to sign on with the team, why they cut him immediately. I don't know. But right now, it follows suit with what has happened earlier. Back in November, Johnson tried to sign on with the Adirondack Thunder of the ECHL. He was cut a day later after news got out as far as, hey, this is Ben Johnson, this is what happened. You know, he was convicted of a violent crime. The Allen Americans also signed him back on January. I'm sorry, I'm reading this wrong. Yeah, Allen signed him on December 29th, 2025. Caught him the next day. Again, same thing. We found out what was going on. And on the 22nd of January, he signed with the Zydeco. The league had since made the decision after Friday to suspend him indefinitely. I understand both sides of the argument. There are some that say he did his time. He's he's shown himself to be a good citizen since. You know, he's married. He's got a kid. I think one or two kids. Anyway, he's changed. All right, there are some that argue that. Others say committed a violent crime. He's on the sex offender registry. We can't have that in this league. Okay, I understand both sides of the argument. The reason I think that the league took the step that it did in suspending him indefinitely is because, just from an optics standpoint, fair or not, it's not a good look for the league. Some people see that as the league harboring someone who has committed a violent crime. Unfortunately, in a lot of situations, appearance is everything. So there you go. That is why that has happened. Whether you agree with it, disagree with it, that's up to you. Everybody's got their own views, their own point of views, their own opinions, and that's fine. If we all had the same opinion or the same view about everything, I don't think we'd even have professional sports, quite honestly. But anyway, that is the controversy from this past week. Why don't we go on, talk about something a little bit more pleasant? We'll start to run down previews of this upcoming weekend's games, and I'll give you my picks. So, of course, up to now, you've seen picks and previews on Facebook via WordPress, and this time we're going here on YouTube. I did this last week just as kind of a practice run for myself and to kind of get you guys a little bit more used to what you're going to be seeing with this segment, because it'll be a regular feature of the Fed Flash Face-Off. All right, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 games this weekend. There is a rematch or rescheduled game coming up. We'll get to that in a little bit. All right, we're going to start off kind of chronologically. I started off with Friday start times, earliest to latest, and we built the matchups there. There are no home and home series this weekend, so that makes it a little easier, I think, for the teams. And travel's tough, especially after this last weekend with the storm. So Twin City, they go to visit Binghamton. Binghamton reeling after getting shut out by PD on home ice last time they played. Twin City, they got a great come from behind win in overtime against the Blue Ridge Bobcats. So both teams kind of on different ebbs and flows, but Twin City, they're 13-17-1. That's fifth in the Continental. Binghamton, 34-0. First in the Empire, of course. These teams have played three times earlier this year, and Binghamton has won all three. That's where the 0 and the 3 come in. Head-to-head, 3-0 in favor of Binghamton. The big number for this game is the difference with average goals scored per game. Twin Cities struggling still, 3.1 goals scored per game. That's in the bottom 4 in the league. Binghamton, in the meantime, is, I believe, second in the league. Second at 5.2 goals scored per game. So very proficient offensively, of course. So that puts a lot of onus on Boris Babic. Now, Babic has been fantastic this year. He doesn't have the best numbers he's ever had, but he has very good numbers considering everything that Twin City has gone through this year. So he's the key guy for the Thunderbirds. If the Thunderbirds are going to win, Babic's got to stand on his head. He's got to be nearly perfect in his crease. Meanwhile, for Binghamton, I think you're looking at Ivan Bondarenko being a big impact player. Only 8 goals, but 49 assists in 34 games. That's an assist and a half per game. Incredible. So both of these games will be played at 7 o'clock Friday and Saturday. Right now, I am the Binghamton Black Bears are a bit perturbed after what happened last week. I think they get both wins. But having said that, when these two teams get together, it's never a one-sided contest. The Thunderbirds match up well against the Black Bears. They just haven't been able to get over the hump. All right, next matchup, the PD Ice Cats, off of that big shutout win in Binghamton, travel to Athens. And they are taking on the Rock Lobsters once again. These two teams do not like each other. I almost consider this my game of the week, but there's going to be another matchup that gets that designation from me. The PD Ice Cats, 12-17-3. That's good for 4th, 1 point up on Twin City. Athens, 27-5-0, only 2 points behind the Continental Division leading Monroe Moccasins. The teams have met 10 times before, and Athens has won 8 of them. Now, PD has won 2. They're the only team to beat Athens twice, but both of those wins came in Florence. The Ice Cats are going to be tired because they aren't getting home they didn't get home until late on Tuesday after being stuck up in Binghamton for a couple extra days due to the weather. Fortunately, they were able to have a practice or 2 up there, so that was nice. But still, that's a lot of travel. You get home late on Tuesday, and then Friday morning, get on the bus, head down to Athens. Athens is a perfect 16-0 at home. Extremely tough division to play in. A tough barn to play in. PD has that great shorthanded ability, ability to score a shorthanded goal. They lead the league with 11. Both of these games are going to be played at 7:05 Friday and Saturday. As I look at the matchups, I kind of went back and forth. Can PD pull it off again? They've beaten Athens twice. They've beat Binghamton. However, Athens again, that home ice advantage, that I don't think there is a greater home ice advantage in the league than what Athens has. So I am giving them 2 wins and terrible check marks to boot. Okay, next series. This is what I am listing Friday as the game of the week, and that is between the Hat Tricks and the Bobcats. A lot of urgency here because of the records. Danbury Hat Tricks, 14-17-3, 5th in the Empire. The Bobcats, 15-16-2, 4th in the Empire. The difference between these two teams is only 3 points. That's 1 regulation win. And as you can see, the teams matched up earlier this year in Danbury. Danbury won both games. Now, there have been some changes with both rosters since. So it's not exactly the same teams, but obviously it's always easier playing at home. So, it's going to be tough for Danbury to pick up a couple extra wins. Right now the Hat Tricks are doing pretty good. They're just 5-5, but they've rattled off 4 wins in a row. So they're feeling pretty good. Bobcats, the big problem on Friday is going to be the absence of Dustin Giseau, who is suspended. So we'll see what kind of impact that has. That means players like Michael Mercurio and Brendan Reller and Carson Andrioli, they have to step up. They've got to step up their game. So we'll see what happens. A big number to look at, power play numbers. Only 13% for the Hat Tricks, 25 for the Bobcats. That is 3rd best in the league. All right, both of these games will be played at 7:30. I kind of went back and forth on this. I think the teams split. So we're going to go 1-1. All right, next we have the Prowlers facing off against the Watertown Wolves. The Prowlers, of course, are 2nd in the Empire, 20-12-0. And the Watertown Wolves trying to get back into things. They're currently 6th in the Empire, not too far, though, behind Danbury. 11-18-4 is their record. The teams did play twice before in Port Huron, and they ended up splitting. So, as a matter of fact, that win by Watertown kind of set the Prowlers off on a 7-game losing streak. So that was the beginning of the big streak that the Prowlers had. So we'll see what happens. Looking at a couple of players that I think are very, very important to the series. Lucas Lackney. He's a great player. He's got a ton of talent. Hasn't really shown it, though. He's not shooting the puck as often. He's not as aggressive as he was last year in the offensive zone. I think he needs to step up his game. He's got 26 points. If he gets rolling, that could really go a long way. Now, there will be no Reggie Millette in this series. He's sitting out a couple games, so that puts a little bit more pressure on Matt Graham and Lackney and Jamie Bussell and some of the other Prowlers to generate offense. They also are struggling at 3.1 goals scored per game. Watertown, they've surrendered the 2nd most goals in the league, which is really, really surprising to me. I've been kind of shocked by that statistic. But anyway, Stephen Klink, he's got 42 points, 21 goals, 21 assists. He's one of the few players in this league, as I've watched and observed a lot of players. Klink is one of the few players that just really has an ability to just turn it on almost at will. And if he just takes control of the game offensively, it could be a long night for the Prowlers. And this is another series that I went back and forth on. How is this going to turn out? Both games, by the way, 7:30. I think we get a split here too. One for Port Huron, one for Watertown. Okay, next, down to Georgia. The Breakers playing against Columbus. They played just recently, and things have not been going good for the Breakers as of late. They're 1-9 in their last 10. Overall, they're 6-24-1. Columbus, they seem to be back on the hot streak. They've been hot or cold, and it's been a very streaky year for Columbus. Right now, they're hot again. They've won their last 4. 19-11-3, sitting in third place. And they're convincingly in third place, as we talked about in the Stars and Standings segment. So they've played each other 4 times previously. Columbus has won them all. And a lot of shots on goal, which unfortunately is kind of par for the course for the Breakers, surrendering a lot of shots on goal. Right now, the Breakers have given up the most goals of anyone in the league. Their goal differential is at -79, whereas Columbus, they're up to 4 goals scored per game now, and a lot of that is because they have Ryan Hunter back. Ryan Hunter is such a big offensive part of the Columbus River Dragons. He and Tyler Burrow really, they really complement each other very, very well. Ross Bartlett, a little bit of a spark plug. He brings fresh energy to the Breakers after being traded from Baton Rouge. So he's got 10 goals. Still, Biloxi, they just need a finisher. They need an offensive finisher. And Bartlett, while a very good player, very dynamic player, I don't think he's it. Ryan Hunter's got 23 goals on the year, having a tremendous year considering he spent so much time in the SP and a little bit of time in the ECHL, I believe, as well. So as I look at this series, I just don't see Biloxi's recent misfortunes changing that much. I'm giving Columbus a pair of wins. All right, then we go to Topeka and the Indiana Sentinels traveling out there to take on the Scarecrows. Indiana, they've had some struggles as of late. 1-9-0 in their last 10. They've lost their last 7 games consecutively. A couple of those in overtime, so they've grabbed 2 points. But nonetheless, they need to get it going. It's going to be difficult, though, and we'll talk about that in just a second. The Sentinels, 6-20-4, 7th in the Empire. Topeka, 19-11, sitting in third place, just 5 points behind the Prowlers. Could make up some ground this weekend. 4 previous meetings between the two teams, and Topeka's won them all. They're 6-4 in their last 10, which isn't fantastic, but it's steady. It's kind of the turtle in the hare. It's just kind of steadily going forward. Both of these games will be played at 8:05 Eastern, 7:05 Central, both Friday and Saturday. Timeout, forgot to mention, start times here, 7:35 Eastern on Friday, 7:05 Eastern Saturday. All right, back to this. So the problem for Indiana is they are now without their top 3 scorers. They're without Ryan Glazer. They're without Nolan Dawson. And who was the other one? But anyway, they're missing 3 of their top 5 scorers. That's a lot of offense to lose for a team that's not scoring a whole lot to begin with, only averaging 2.9 goals per game. Topeka, they don't score much either. They don't surrender much either. They're one of the stingiest defenses in the league. And I think defense wins these games, I'm looking at games that are like 3-1 or 4-1, 4-2, something like that. But as I look at things, yeah, we are giving Topeka the weekend sweep. All right, final game on Friday, and it's weird. Monroe's only playing the one game. That's against Baton Rouge once again. Baton Rouge continuing on their long road trip. Happens every year with Mardi Gras. You know, they don't have access to the home arena, so they travel for a couple months. And the Moccasins, of course, everybody's been talking about them. 17 wins in a row. They're just lighting it up. 26-4-2 is their record. Meanwhile, Zydeco are 6-19-6. Not a bad team. They play well as a unit, but they just don't score enough. They with a 10.9% power play, you know you're not getting a lot of offensive production, and there's not much more on 5-on-5 play either. So Monroe, pretty healthy, 23.7 on the power play. Connor Green, I think he's the key for the Zydeco. If they're going to stay close, Green's got to play like he did last weekend. He was amazing. 55 saves. You know, it was still 5 goals, but 55 saves. And most goalies don't make 55 saves in a night. Connor Green did, and he looked phenomenal doing it. Several high danger chances that he stopped. Meanwhile, for the Moccasins, you know, they're plugging right along. Jared Christie, he's been a bit, I won't say cold, but he hasn't been showing up on the score sheet very often as of late. He can light it up. He's gotten 5, 6, 7 points in a weekend before. Even though this is just one game, I'm looking to see what Jared Christie can do this coming Friday, which of course that'll be 8:05 Eastern, 7:05 Central. Unfortunately, 9 matches, you know, eight games going to Monroe. I just think this is just a mismatch. That one game was the opening game of the season. It was a 4-1 win by the Zydeco. Monroe, not the team that they are now. So, is it going to be 18 in a row? I think so. I think the Monroe Moccasins continue to make their trek on trying to beat the record of 22 consecutive wins. We'll see if they do it. Now, the last game of the weekend is on Sunday. It's a makeup game. It was supposed to be played this last weekend. Mother Nature had other ideas. And so Biloxi, after taking on Columbus, they make the short trek over, relatively short trek over to Athens to take on Athens Sunday. And we're I'm looking for an Athens sweep. I think they go 19-0 at home by the time this weekend is all said and done. All right, so make your picks. You can compare them to mine. I'm running at a 76.7% correct rate so far this year. So, pat on the back for me. And you can snicker. That's okay. All right, so there we go. There is our previews, our look ahead to these games, and my picks. One last thing that we have to do in this edition of the Fed Flash Face-Off, and that is news and notes. All right, so this is what you guys are usually waiting for in the middle part of the week from me, and that is news and notes. This will always be a part of every edition of the Fed Flash Face-Off. So let's get right into what we have over the last few days. Earlier, after recording my picks and previews, in which I talked about Ryan Hunter, well, he's not going to be playing for Columbus this weekend. He's going to be up in the ECHL, playing for the South Carolina Stingrays. So Columbus is going to be missing him for sure, but this is another great opportunity for Ryan Hunter. He has been up at the ECHL level a couple times now this year, so that is great. The whole reason why the FPHL exists, and its name is Federal Prospects Hockey League. Try and get players moved up to the next level. So this is a very good thing. Columbus, I know you're going to miss Ryan being there this weekend, but nonetheless, this is, again, a fantastic opportunity for Ryan Hunter. Also getting an opportunity at the ECHL level is TJ Sneath, who got called up from the Topeka Scarecrows to play with the Utah Grizzlies, also of the ECHL. And this is kind of cool because if you don't know, if you don't follow the ECHL, this is the last season for the Utah Grizzlies. They are moving to Trenton, New Jersey for next season. So to be a part of the last season there with the Grizzlies, that's kind of special. So TJ Sneath gets an opportunity, gets a look-see there. Now, other news with the Scarecrows. Some people were asking me because earlier this week in the transaction list, it popped up, Danil Brzgalov still not with team. And everybody's like, whoa, didn't know he left. Did some checking out, got some information. Danil Brzgalov went home to Russia to renew his visa. If you're not familiar with the whole visa process with the FPHL does not have the ability, like the SPHL or the ECHL, to offer a year-long visa. So foreign-born players have to be able to renew their visa somewhere along the line throughout the year because the season from October to May, well, that's longer than 6 months. So Brzgalov did go home. He lives in Russia. And that's sometimes a tricky process with Russian-born players, getting that visa renewed. It's not an easy process. I think Topeka was expecting him to be able to go, get it taken care of quickly, and come right back. And that's out of Topeka's control. That's out of Brzgalov's control. He's got to go through the proper channels. So I'm sure he will be back as soon as possible. Whether Topeka signs another goaltender this weekend, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, that's where Brzgalov is. So hopefully he will be back very, very soon. All right, moving on to the PD Ice Cats. Two pieces of news that came. Well, one came out of the blue, and one came a little later than expected. First, Dustin Jasso did get the 1-game suspension for throwing a stick at the conclusion of the Saturday game last weekend. It was not initially listed on the Fed transactions page, but I'll skip ahead here to mention this from the FPHL. If you want to read up on who got suspended, why, all the write-ups from the Department of Player Safety is now on the homepage of the FPHL website, which of course is federalhockey.com. You just type that in, hit enter, and the first thing you do that you see is up at the top some of the top news items from the recent last few days, and that's the first article. It's there, so you can click on there. You can click the little read more button, and there'll bring the write-ups on what happened, why the Department of Player Safety made the decisions they did. There is one humorous little bit there. Yes, Jacob Schnapp is for some reason listed as Justin Schnapp. I don't know why, but nonetheless, yeah, the suspensions are all listed there. All right, getting back to PD, of course, Wednesday or Tuesday, the big news came out that Scott Brand, who was the business GM for the PD Ice Cats, was no longer with the club. President and managing partner Kevin Kupia issued a statement went out on Facebook, and he just mentioned, Brand is no longer with us. Scott Brand is, as well as having been working with PD all this time, he also is the commissioner of the Michigan Independent Hockey League, which is Senior A semi-pro. And some players from Senior A semi-pro have come into the Fed. So I guess right now Scott will be concentrating on his duties there. But yeah, unfortunately, Uncle Scotty, as he's become known as, I know PD fans are going to greatly miss him. He was responsible for a lot of the things that took place on the behind the scenes stuff with PD, with securing accounts, corporate sponsorships, getting the lights put in, the new lights. You can see the game now at the Florence Center, and the lights are beautiful. Scott always lands on his feet. I don't think in the slightest sense that we have seen the last of Scotty Brand. So that's where we are with that. What happened, what the specifics are with why he's not there, I don't know. And honestly, I didn't ask. But that is, I don't want to invade on anybody's privacy. So that's what happened there. All right, we talked about the statements from the Department of Player Safety. So the last thing I want to mention in this segment is one thing that I was tossing around talking about, and I decided that I'm going to wait, and I'm going to devote a whole segment of next week's Fed Flash Face-Off, specifically to a topic that a lot of people have asked me about, or they've stated their opinion on. Some of the, shall we say, imbalance that exists in the FPHL. Some of that exists for the reason that a couple of teams have more than what's allotted on the roster limits. You're allowed 20 players plus an optional third goalie, so you can have 20 plus one. A couple teams have 23. And so, well, is that fair? The salary cap issues, the creative bookkeeping that goes on with some teams. Is that fair? We're going to talk about that. So tune in next week for, I'm going to call it Flash Chat. We're going to have a discussion about salary cap, the roster limits, parity. Is it the best thing for the league? Another thing we'll discuss is why hasn't there been better enforcement on these two issues? So tune in for that. I'm going to try and weigh both sides, because there are two sides to the topic. I won't say argument, but there's two sides to this. We'll discuss it. So make sure to tune in then, and that will be its own separate segment of the Fed Flash Face-Off Week 2. Of course, we are concluding Week 1 right now. If I have not mentioned it before, and I don't think I have on this video, if you like what you see, please make sure to hit like. Also subscribe if you have not already done so. Please subscribe to my channel. Of course, it's youtube.com at FPHL Flash. Also share the videos with your friends, and tell a friend that we're making videos focused on the FPHL. So that concludes news and notes, and we are just about ready to wrap up this edition of the Fed Flash Face-Off. So thank you very much for tuning in today and watching this edition, the initial edition of the Fed Flash Face-Off. Always remember, I'm here on YouTube as well, every Saturday and Sunday morning, reviewing the games from the day before as we talk about them, break them down. And now, of course, we'll be here. This will be posted late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, Fed Flash Face-Off. Also remember, you can find me on my Facebook page. Just search for the Fed League Flash. And WordPress for certain articles. You can find me at fedleagueflash9.wordpress.com. I'm Gary Ryan for the Fed League Flash. Thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you again next time right here on the Fed Flash Face-Off.